The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher Clement, and joining us will be Jaron Hofe from MicroSurvey. He's our desktop product manager. Today, he'll just be going over the background imagery in MicroSurvey CAD, so just having some background maps in your CAD drawings. I will be watching the chat, so if you guys have any questions or any issues, just message in the chat, and I'll be watching that and taking care of you guys there. And now I'll pass it off to Jaron, who will go through the presentation.
Thanks, Chris. Just wanted to confirm that you're seeing the right screen here.
Yeah, we can all see the PowerPoint there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulties here this morning getting things going, so I apologize if we have any audio problems or anything like that, but hopefully things go well. Just a little bit of an introduction here. My name is Jaron Hopte. I am the desktop survey product manager here at MicroSurvey, and that means I look after MicroSurvey CAD, Embedded CAD, InCAD, and StarNet. Just adding different features to them, talking to you guys, figuring out what we should add to the program, and then making it happen. On the line here is Chris. He was the one that you heard first there, and he would be one of the guys that you would hear when you call in for technical support here. He would help walk you through any problems that you might have. So first of all, why do we want to use imagery in our drawings? There are several different applications for imagery for land surveyors. I would argue that it's one of the most important things aside from the actual survey. Some of the reasons are project area detail maps, where you might want to overlay a design over some imagery, or show your project area within a larger map in a detail in the corner of your plan. You might want to compare your drone imagery with that imagery that you gathered from another source to show construction progress. You can prove the accuracy of your drone imagery. Or I personally have also used it to fill areas outside of your drone coverage when you're showing a larger map. You can show a reason why a monument might be destroyed and maybe you couldn't replace it. You can show the relative location of set monuments or control, or if you're doing up a control sheet, you can show where it's going to be in relationship to other objects around it, like fences and roads and light standards and all that sort of thing. You can review a project area to determine or display your survey accuracy. And you can plan the survey prior to a site visit. You can review specific areas of interest that might cause you to add a bit more time to your survey or your estimate. It might be able to give you a better idea of how many crews you're going to need on a project or how many man hours you're going to need to complete the thing. And it might help you identify any problem areas. So we have several different systems in MicroSurvey CAD for attaching imagery or using imagery. The first of which I'd like to go over is the Bing Maps feature. You can find this on the MS Tools tab or by typing Attach Imagery, and that's the left button on that on that ribbon tab here that I have shown at the bottom. In order to use it, you must agree to the Bing Maps terms of use, and this is not available with a demo license. We have 3 map types available. Aerial with labels, and road, and you can click or get those by clicking the little drop down as I have shown there. Aerial is much like this, just without the labels, and by definition, the aerial with labels is what I have shown here. And then you also have access to the Bing road maps as well. I don't personally see this being overly useful, but maybe you want to show directions to a site or something like that. That might be a good way you can use that one. Once you've done that, you can choose how you'd like your image to be positioned. This is the dialog here, as I showed before. So you've got 4 little radio buttons on the top left there, where you can choose to center on your current view. So that would be just wherever you've zoomed into on the project, that's going to be the center point of your imagery. Of course, this requires that your project be set up with a coordinate system. in order for it to calculate that point. Or if you center it on the point ID, likewise, you would need to have a coordinate system set up in order for it to recognize the latitude and longitudes for that point to grab that imagery. You can center on an input lat and long value. If you are not working in a specified coordinate system, or if you are working in a local coordinate system, but you happen to know a latitude and longitude, I've often just pulled these off of Google Earth or Big Maps myself, and then entered them there. Another thing you can do, if you're working in town, you can center on a street address, and that will pull up the imagery for that location. You can zoom to specific levels within this as well, and that will sometimes open up different images, different levels of detail, depending on what your zoom level is. I find what I end up doing is zooming to where I want the picture, and then the better approach for picking the right image zoom level is going to be a little bit between the view and the extent, because you're going to want it a little bit larger than the view, otherwise it's not necessarily going to fit over top of whatever you've zoomed into. But you don't necessarily want the entire extent of the project. So that's just my recommendation there. Underneath there, we have a few little options. We've got, sorry, I think I missed one here. Maybe not. If you want to view your zoom level, you need to click on the preview button over in the bottom right, where it is highlighted in blue there. This doesn't automatically populate. You need to click on that every time, but then it'll at least give you an idea of what kind of zoom level you're looking at, the level of detail shown, and that sort of thing. You can manually insert your image for a local coordinate, so it's not going to snap it to the latitude and longitude specified in the file. Then you would use that for the center image on address, or center it on the lat long. Just then it's not thrown way off in the middle of nowhere and your project is somewhere else. You can set your image draw order to back. I think you should just leave that one on, because generally we don't like to show images over top of our drawing. And this one's pretty handy, actually. If you move your image to a known point after insertion, it allows you to, once that image has been put in the drawing, it will prompt you to pick a image point and then a new point for that. So maybe you have a topographic survey and your fence shows up in there, but you can see the fence in the image, and you just want to ensure that they line up as best as possible. So that will allow you to take care of any little error that might be associated with these global imagery services. Down at the bottom, the URL shows the downloaded location for that file, and the file shows where it's going to be stored. You can change that as well. When you insert this image, it's going to be inserted just as a normal image within MicroSurvey CAD. It doesn't update or anything like that, so you can move it around and use it just like any other normal image. Along with that, the image frame system variable is pretty handy. 0 is no border shown and none printed, as I've got the rest there. It allows you to change the different display and printing styles for that. If you click on the boundary of the image, you're also going to get the ribbon tab that I have shown at the bottom there. And you can choose display image frame from there as well. Another thing you can do with these images is when you throw them on a specific layer, you can turn off the printability of that layer. So the border isn't necessarily going to print then when you go to print through your viewports and stuff. We can attach images and georeferenced images in MicroSurvey CAD as well. If you use image attach, or IAT is the alias for that one, or it's found on the insert tab. There's over 100 supported image file types here, so you really can have your choice of what you prefer to use. I'm not aware of any that are unsupported at this point in time, but if they are, certainly let me know and we can look into that. I believe this will automatically attempt to select the positioning file if it can detect it. If not, otherwise you just hit the ellipsis there that's highlighted in blue and search for it yourself. You can, like a block, choose your insertion point, scale, and rotation here, or once you click OK, you can manually choose those as well. If you click on details, you'll get a lot more information about that image. This might be useful if you're saying GIS or something like that, where some of this information matters and you're uploading to a shapefile or something like that. Might give you an idea of how much it might bog down your project if you've got a very large image that you're throwing in there or something like that as well. We can export to Google Earth in MicroSurvey CAD as well. I know it's not really background imagery, but this is a very handy function, and I personally use it all the time when I'm working. It's called Write KML, or it's available on the MS Points tab as well. Using the checkboxes there, you can choose the different types of objects that you'd like to export, and it will export all objects in the drawing of that type. At this point, it doesn't take what you've selected and export that. You will need to have a coordinate system set up for this, though, in order for it to actually export to Google Earth and place things in the right spot. This is a great way to check your coordinate system accuracy or your fieldwork accuracy, or even just have a site review while you're planning or bidding on a project. So you just kind of got a rectangle of the project area, and that's something you can use to check it out. And something else that's kind of handy with this, if you have brought in your field data or even you've got your design, a lot of times the objects that are exported through to KML are visible in Street View. I find it kind of depends on the accuracy of the elevation modeling in Google Earth, though. If it's not entirely accurate, your line work can kind of go through the ground and that sort of thing in Street View. GlobalMapper is another service that we provide in MicroSurvey CAD, and you can find that on the MS Tools tab. It will open a data file, you can choose to open a data file like the image attach command, and you can choose a background color for this. The reason for that is this actually connects to an online data source. So this will provide you more of a GIS feel to it that will regenerate and zoom and pan around, or as you zoom and pan around. So clicking on download online data will bring you to this this screen here, where under popular sources, I personally feel like the World Imagery one is the one that most people are going to use. I mean, if you've got better stuff for where you work, certainly check them all out. There's tons and tons of data sources in there. Some of them are premium content like it displays there, one of which is the Hexagon Imagery program. So if you happen to have a login for that, you can use that, and that's some high quality data in there, but it costs you a bit more to use. The other stuff is often free. As it shows at the bottom of the dialog, the data sources are on external servers that we have no control over. So whether or not it's available or not is not up to us. We can't change that. If it's there, awesome. If it's not, I'm sorry, try something else. Similar to Bing Maps, we can select your data bounds, and you can choose your project area as well as how much data you're allowing it to bring in, so that it's not using a whole bunch of your your Wi-Fi data or whatever if you're working at home or something like that. And as I mentioned, it does connect to the data source and it will regenerate as you zoom and pan in a project. You can turn that off by hitting the drop down for the button on the MS Tools tab and selecting the auto regen icon. So it will just display what you last regenerated there. You can then manually regenerate it at your choosing. If you're zooming and panning around a lot, this might be a good idea because it does tend to make it lag a bit every time it regenerates. The Volta Store, that's the right-hand option in the tab of imagery there at the top. And that's available on the MS Tools tab again, or at voltus.com. This is the Hexagon imagery program. This provides high quality imagery or LiDAR data for specific data sets, depending on where you live and choose to download for. There's very good coverage in Alberta if you happen to live and work in Alberta. I believe they're looking at expanding that right now, but it's very high quality data, and I believe they're actually giving out licenses of it for a short term right now if you want to try it out. You will be redirected to their website, which looks like this, and you can pick your location, zoom level, and type of imagery that you'd like to bring in. And then they're going to have different prices over on the right side there for the different resolution and file format you can choose as well. When you want to bring that in, use that image attach command, and you can import it once it's downloaded, and use it like any other georeferenced image. One last command here that's useful with this imagery that I wanted to touch on is the align command. And this is available on the edit tab. You can see it in the top right of that tab that I've got shown there. This will allow you to select coordinate pairs to scale, rotate, and move objects. This is not only applicable to imagery, you can use this with other objects, but it is very, very handy with the imagery. So when you run the align command, it's going to ask you to select your object. So you select your image. You're going to select your point number 1, your base point, or in this case, it's your initial image point. And then you're going to select point number 2, where you'd like it to end up. You can select your image point number 2, and then you select your calculated point number 2, and you carry on. It'll allow you to carry on through several points like this. When you're done, you hit enter, and it'll ask you if you'd like to scale the object, and then it will move that move the object, or in this case, the image, to that new location, allowing you to line up the picture that you have imported with the rest of your project. And this will work good with plans and stuff as well. There are a couple of different options for PDF import for background imagery if you want to bring one of those in and have that as background imagery while you're calculating through it or something like that. That works pretty good. You can see if you've made any errors because theoretically that plan is to scale, some sort of scale, and if you get a few lines in there, you can line it up and just work over top of it and make sure that everything's in the right ballpark. And that's all I have for us today. If I've got any questions, that'd be great.
Yeah, we got a question here. It's related to the Bing Maps. Someone was just asking if is there a reason why it's Bing Maps, or if they can bring Google Earth images instead?
The reason that it's Bing Maps is with the development kit that we've got from Bing, it's a lot more user-friendly. I believe it's with Google, they've got some kind of an agreement in there that you're not allowed to draw over top of the Google Earth images and that sort of thing. So it's actually not very useful for CAD. And then I believe Google Earth charges a whole lot more as well. We provide this as a free service, but it does cost us a tiny little bit every time that imagery is used. Whereas Google Earth would cost us way too much. So between those two things, it doesn't make sense for us to use Google Earth imagery, and Bing just, it seems to be a appropriate and adequate for the job that we need it to do. Any other questions, Chris?
No, it seems like it was just the one question there for today.
All right. Well, thank you everybody then, and have a great rest of your day.